almost a full table.
Yeah, have a look at that. Pretty good turnout.
Of course, Bill's not here though. He never shows up. Oh, we're good to go. Is your tape on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the North Branford Planning and Zoning regular meeting for Thursday, February 4th. In attendance are regular members Halkin, Sienna, Leskovitz, alternate member Gunn, and myself, Chairman Dulac. Just before we get started, there's some agendas in the back, if you'd like one. And also, I'm going to put back there is this is the drafting motion for the Section 54 alcoholic beverages. If you wanted to see where we stand on that, we've had some terminology changes and added some information from the last meeting, some of the input that we received from the public. Okay, so the first order of business, we have some minutes. You have the first one? Let's do one from September first.
Okay.
Okay. The first one we have is from a regular meeting Thursday, September 17th. Let's see. So Fran, you chaired that one. So you're here. Ron and Dave. So it would be you three voting on that.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Charlie and I abstained to that, so I passed this 3-0. Fran, since you share that one, you want to sign that? Oh, is it on here? There you go.
I think
Yeah. Oop.
I think it's at the page before it. That one says draft.
Oops. Fran, you got to sign the wrong way. I gave you the wrong one. There you go. And the last one is from Thursday, January 21st, our last meeting. In attendance were myself, Charlie, and Dave. Ron and Fran, you were absent.
I move to accept the minutes of the January 21st meeting.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
And Fran abstains as well. There you go. I finally got rid of that one. You guys see that one?
Yes, that's in the packet.
Okay, okay.
That should be in your
Yep,
packet.
that's why I didn't know if we changed or not.
Right.
Okay, next order of business is continuation public hearing PZ application 2015-14. That's section 54 alcohol beverages. In the packet, Carrie provided some of the terminology and some additions that were put in there. You want to highlight those?
Yes,
Would you like?
I would. So as a result of the last meeting, if you look on the second page, which is section 42.5.16, which is a proposed new section called restaurants, there was some clarification and discussion regarding if a restaurant was located within 500 feet of a church, school, or playground, several standards that that establishment would have to meet. So number 1 is establishment shall be a full-service restaurant. Number 2, which is where we have these two options. Option A, table service for purchasing wine and beer only. Option B, wine and beer shall only be served at tables. Number 3, seating at bars or counters shall be prohibited. Number 4, service bars will be allowed for the storage of beer and wine only. Number 5, the outdoor seating must be screened and approved by Planning and Zoning Commission. This is where I just added a comment of, I'm not sure if the Planning and Zoning Commission wants to allow the service of wine and beer outside. That's up for discussion. And then also number 6, which had not been really changed at all, which is except for business identification, signage complying with section 52 No external facing signage attached to the structure or on the premises is allowed. And then going down to the definition of a full-service restaurant, just one question that came up is the end of that definition, which is no more than 45% of the floor area is devoted to food preparation or other space not accessible to the public. It's just a question of, is that 45% of floor area something that the commission wants to require or not? I don't know, Chairman, if you'd like for me, I have some comments.
Sure.
If you'd like for me to read those into the record at this point or not.
Yeah.
So I did, I had heard that the superintendent of schools and the Board of Education had some concerns, so I had emailed them on Monday, the January 25th. And I met with Scott Schoonmaker on Tuesday, the 2nd, so he sent me an email which says, "Dear Carrie, thank you for taking the time to meet with me yesterday to discuss the proposed text amendment and the impact on Jerome Harrison Elementary School. I have communicated with my board and obtained feedback regarding this change. As we discussed, it is apparent that Pacilio's staff and patrons are using the Jerome Harrison parking lot. The majority of board members cite student safety as their primary concern. I have met with Lieutenant Ripa and will meet with Fran Marola to discuss proper signage that designates Jerome Harrison parking to be limited to parents, staff, and visitors of the school. Unfortunately, we are limited in our ability to enforce this restriction. I trust that the Planning and Zoning Commission will adhere to the established guidelines, keeping in mind the Board of Education's concern regarding the use of the parking lot by patrons and staff of Pacilio's. I would appreciate your representation of the thoughts of the Board of Education and myself regarding this issue at the hearing. Thank you, Scott Schoonmaker, Superintendent."
Well, I think his comments, that he's involved, planning,
Just pass this down to him.
Franny and also the police chief, because parking isn't really part of this application. So, but that concern should still be addressed, but I don't think we really can address that, because basically it has no impact on this. It's more about a site plan, or in the case of this, it's off the premises of a site plan. So I think what he's doing, going to those two proper channels, are the way to do it. But I don't think we can address that.
Right.
I think we made that clear at the last meeting that we had, when people were asking about the parking, since this isn't for a specific site plan.
The other comment I received today was a call from a resident named Barbara. She just had concerns. She cited that she had concerns regarding the entrance to Pacilio's restaurant being located on Merrick Drive. She started the conversation by saying that she had read the article in the Sound, and said that she had concerns with the construction and was just upset that the restaurant was allowed to construct the building near the school and have a main entrance that was on Merrick Drive. So she called with a concern, wanted me to relay that at the hearing, so that's what I'm doing.
But that's off topic again. They're specifying one building. We're just going for the general
Exactly.
statute, right?
That street is a town road, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. The previous establishment on that property had an entrance on that road.
That's correct.
So, and every business that's been in that particular building has had the same entrance. Hasn't changed. But it's off topic.
Right. So, to get back on, do you have any more?
No.
Okay. All right, so, let's look down number 2, so there's a couple different options. Just kind of get a consensus of, it's almost saying the same thing.
Wasn't there something I read about counters?
Right.
someplace?
Oh, that's the next one down. That's number 3.
Well, I think if you go with B, it's very straightforward. Can only be served at tables, end of conversation.
Any other thoughts?
I like B myself.
B's okay.
He's better.
Okay. Then the next one we had in there was the seating at bars or counters shall be prohibited. I think, Charlie, you kind of brought that up last time, that we heard some conversation, so basically just added that in. Kind of clarified one of the members that was from the public speaking was talking about the service bars and showed us some pretty nice service bars that could actually, be used as some place to seat as well. So that's why we kind of, included the service bars will be allowed only for the storage of beer and wine. Let's see, service bars will be allowed for the storage of beer and wine. Yeah.
Well, service bar basically is for the waiter or waitress to go up to
Right.
a bartender if they have one to get whatever they're ordering.
Right. Yep.
So,
But we saw some that you could actually put seats in. You could actually, it was a bar on one side, and then you had the service part of it on the other side. So we just kind of clarified that. Outdoor seating must be screened, as Carrie mentioned. That might be something we can consider that, or we can say there would be no outdoor seating allowed. For the serving outdoors, let's put it that way. You can have outdoor seating, but just no service out there. Just throwing it out there.
Service of beer and wine. You could have food with no beer and wine
Right.
inside.
Yeah, but you're saying that you're gonna have screening,
Yeah.
so if you're gonna have screening, what difference?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
I'm just,
I'm
yeah,
throwing that
yeah.
out
I mean, I
also.
just,
Yeah,
what
If
difference?
the screening is bad, then,
it doesn't get approved, because it has to be approved by us.
then they lose their license.
Well, they don't lose their
They
license
just-
if they don't get it
Yeah,
approved.
they don't get approved, right. The signage has been there. I thought that's pretty clear, basically. It's just the only signage you can have is basically identifying your business, no outward facing, whether it's indoors or outdoors, any other signage. So they eliminate any kind of,
I have to go back to 4.
oh, yeah.
When you're saying storage,
Mhm.
I think there could be a problem with somebody saying, oh, well, a storage place is one thing, a service bar where there's somebody there that gives the waiter and waitress the liquor, or the beer, or the wine, or whatever they're ordering, is kind of a different thing.
Well, yeah, because the pictures we saw, they actually
No,
have
I
service-
understand
they have
that.
the taps on it, so they have a couple taps on it. Then they have the refrigerator units underneath it, so you could store in there.
Right.
Right. But then that would be on one side. The one we saw was it was real nice on one side. It had taps, coolers, and then you could actually sit on the other side of it. It
I
was
think what-
actually.
Yeah, but that's not a service bar
Well,
anymore.
it's considered a service bar. That's why we just want to clarify that it's only for, it's only for the storage.
Like
You
before-
can't sit there.
But I think what 4 needs to clarify is it's for the storage and dispensing only.
Okay,
of
we
beer
can do
and
that.
wine.
Yeah.
Storage, okay,
I
storage
was
and.
thinking of a
yeah.
word to put in there,
Dispensing?
because otherwise it could be a problem. Somebody come in and say, well,
Yeah,
You can't pour anything there, you can only store it there. That's-
yeah, yep.
I have visions of, bottles from floor to ceiling, classified as storage.
Yep.
and dispensing of
Beer and wine only.
beer and wine to staff or something.
Will be only Storage and dispensing
You could also put,
of
if you want,
beer and
this
wine.
consumption not allowed at service bar.
Service
Well, you
bars,
almost cover that by saying
Yeah.
wine and beer shall only be served at tables.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
service bars will be allowed for the,
The
for
storage
only,
and
for
dispensing
only,
of,
for only storage and dispensing of beer and wine. Okay.
and if you want, you put in by staff, you know.
Well, you gotta, yeah. And then the last one we should consider, as Carrie mentioned, is under the definition, which is about the floor space. So what were your thoughts on that?
I just question, this was an example that was from another town. I'm not sure why that 45% of the floor area was in there.
I don't understand why
Why
it would
that
say no more than
matters.
45%,
Right.
unless they're, I don't know what concept they're thinking.
Do we need to really get into monitor how big the food preparation space
I
is?
don't think so.
No.
I mean, I can understand where it would say maybe no less, so then it couldn't be just like
Right.
a little table with a microwave on it or something like that, but I'm not, and no more,
I think it's to address takeout,
Yeah, that's a good point.
so that typically in a takeout restaurant, the food service prep area would be larger than the patron area. But we're talking about a full-service restaurant anyway, so.
Right.
But the only question I have, so if we remove that, but the word counter's in there, but that, we should leave that in, because that's our definition of a restaurant, whether it's in this one or not, because we're gonna put it on the
Correct.
table, right?
Right,
I mean,
so
it's at the table of the,
it would be in the text.
In the
It would
text.
be in the definition for the entire zoning
Okay.
regulations, not just referring to
All right.
this section.
Why do we even have the counters in there?
Well, because that's just the definition of a restaurant. So that's gonna be the definition that's gonna go into our book. So that's the definition for any restaurant. So it has counters in there, but we're saying for this particular regulation that we're not allowing them in there. So that's why that's why we added no counters in there, because it's the
Okay, so you-
definition. We don't want, if we took it out of here, then,
Okay.
yeah, if we
I
took it
gotcha.
out of here, so it puts a restaurant and they can't have counters.
Yeah,
So,
right.
all right. Are we agreement that after counters, we'll delete all that out about the floor space?
Yeah.
All right.
I guess my question is, it's in there. Should I be concerned? You know, I don't know what the average kitchen area would be in a restaurant. Is, you know, 50/50, or if this is less, it has to be less than 50.
Right. But like Carrie was saying, it's more like the regulation that we were working off of was more for kind of like takeout. But we would have some not flexibility, but we would definitely, when a site plan came, and if there was just like a little tiny room with a microwave on it, you know, we would say that no, that's not acceptable. So we would have some flexibility on that, on the
Yeah, but
regulation.
Your microwave example would fill this example, because
Right.
that's less than 45%.
Well, that's what,
But
yeah.
I'm thinking, a restaurant with takeout, we'll use a pizza place.
Yep.
If the logical evolution would be a catering service. Now, if the restaurant is weak and the catering is heavy, then you'd want more than 50%, more than 45%.
If
Right,
then you
yeah.
would be a
Yeah, so if
restaurant.
you had a catering restaurant that also had like, you know, like a takeout at the same time,
Right.
but that's what I'm saying, let's just take that out and let that be the discretion of the business.
That
They
works,
come
yes, yes.
to us and then we can say, yeah, this looks, you know, if it's a catering business, yeah, we would expect you to have 75% floor space for, you know, for kitchen and smaller and if it was more of a sit down or takeout, we would expect less space
Mhm.
and, you know, more floor. So let that just be, you know, what comes in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause right now, I could think of a place that, they're obviously, their prep area, their kitchen area is a lot bigger than their sit-down area, but they do have 3 or 4 tables in there, but that's not a
Right.
full-service restaurant.
Right.
So they certainly would fit into that category, that they can't have any more than 45%.
And when we see the site plan, we would have some discretion on that as well. So, all right, so let's see some of the changes.
2 tables, right?
Is there anything else, any other suggestions or any other comments so
No.
far? All right, so we went with option B under number 2. Number 4, service bars will be allowed for only storage and dispensing of beer and wine. We're gonna eliminate under the definition, everything after counters. Okay.
I had a question for Carrie. If this proposal did not pass, and we were talking about BYOB and what the requirements were for that, could a restaurant that was in the vicinity of a school allow BYOB if it was under the footage?
Yes. I asked the town attorney that, and he said yes.
Why would, why, because it says consumption, doesn't it say sale?
Our regulations say sale, retail sale.
Okay. Because what we're proposing is for consumption.
But also retail sale. You have to sell it before people
Yeah.
consume
You
it.
have to pay
Yeah.
it before you can consume it.
Same terminology, consumption on premise and retail is roughly the
So
same thing.
this is
Right,
what-
so really, if the BYOB was already there, they can consume it anyways.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Right, and I mean, one of the things with regulation like this is that, you know, bring your own beverage is, you know, there's a little less control on that as well. Because people can bring in, I think you can bring in more than just beer and wine under the BYOB.
I don't know.
I
Well, and you
I
don't need a
believe you can.
permit. From what I understand, you don't
No.
need a permit from the Liquor Control Commission, which is another component of our regulations.
Now, I'm just going to the point where they could have consumed it on site within the footage of the school. Just that it wasn't being sold. They could still consume it there. So
Correct.
the regulation didn't restrict consumption of alcohol next to a school. Only that the proprietor wasn't selling it.
You are correct.
Okay.
Yep. So basically, by doing this, we're kind of eliminating that it's only to beer and wine, where BYOB, I'm almost positive it can be, you can.
I didn't know that.
I believe you can, I'm not positive, but.
The thing about this also is that on a BYOB, the restaurant doesn't have any control of how much the restaurant goer drinks. You can come in with a 30-pack of beer and drink it there. Whereas if they purchase it at a restaurant, now the onus is on the restaurant owner not to lose his license.
Correct. Yep.
So we're putting more controls on than there were previously.
I agree. All right, so at this time, the public hearing's still open for this. So,
Excuse me, number 5, did we ever really hash that one out? The
Yeah.
service outside?
Well, do we want to, right now it's allowed, all right, as long as they come in with we approve a site, approve
Okay,
it's part of the site plan, whether it's revised or part of the site plan.
Where I'm going with this is, when they come in with a site plan and everything looks pretty, and on the grand opening day, it's all very pretty, and 6 months later, all the plants die, it looks terrible, and who keeps an eye on the screening?
The ZBO would, if, you know, I mean, we're, you know, something like this when we're talking screening, usually when we talk about a site plan, whether it's, you know, we're talking about trees, but more like this, if this is gonna be if this is gonna be service outside, I mean, just my initial thought would be, it would be completely screened in, more like, almost like a higher fence, you know, 6-foot fence around there, facing away from any, you know, school, church, or whatever it might be, or on the opposite side. So I'm thinking more than just, you know, trees or shrubbery and different things like that. I was thinking more enclosed, you know, pine fence or whatever it might be.
So it's basically more of a control by the zoning enforcement officer and the health department.
I would think mostly, if it was trees and screening like that, it was falling down and the fence was falling down, ZBO would be, you know, the one to
I mean,
contact.
If things are falling into food too,
Well,
that's
yeah,
the health
yeah,
department.
yeah.
So, okay.
But I mean, that's something, but we, again, the screening we would have, somebody would have to bring a site plan in.
Mhm.
We would be able to provide our recommendations at that point that, you know, like just a split rail fence is not what we're looking for. If we're looking for something that will, you know, shield it
Yeah,
completely.
I'm
Yep.
thinking a year down the line.
Yep, yep, but that would be the ZBO.
Well, and
Just a
also,
comment, on the tree or landscaping, I mean, there's all shades of gray on that. And you
Right.
brought up the question, what happens, they die, they don't really make it. I think you leave yourself a little open in terms of interpretation. Is that proper screening? I think what Harry said, sort of, maybe you say, if you're gonna allow outside, screen with a solid fence or, I mean, something so that there's not the gray in there. I mean, because I think the intent is to screen it from abutting properties, and so you're not, you know, open to all the other areas.
Yes,
But landscaping, again, like you said, it could die, it could not take too well, but it may be planted in accordance with the plan, but it may just not
exactly.
thrive the way you hope it would.
but also, this is being proposed as part of a special use permit, so these standards would all be reviewed as a public hearing. And because it's a special use permit, it gives the commission more discretion than if it were just a site plan review.
Yes, but wouldn't it be better to address it right here? up
Absolutely,
front,
absolutely.
and then not have various interpretations down
Right.
the line?
Sure. But there's also the point of, as a neighbor, as an abutter, whether you are the church, the school, the playground, the town, the board of ed, the neighbor, you can provide input to say, I demand, you know, I request a fence, I don't want just trees. So I'm just saying that there's another opportunity for the public to provide input.
There
this
might
were-
be something better. If we just put like a 6-foot fence, there might be something better down the road. Say,
Right.
oh, you know, but we kind
Yeah,
of.
down the line, they could say, like, put a row of arborvitaes, and you know how long those things last.
But we would, at that point, we could deny it, because that's not good enough, that's not, you know,
So,
we could deny it at that point, I mean, that's, if that wasn't the screen that we're looking for, we could deny it.
do you want me to work on language
Yeah.
for the next meeting?
Mm-hmm.
And have something about screened with fencing, with a more permanent, not landscaping?
I think that's all you have to do is say fencing with other than landscape material, you know, other than, you know, greenery.
I mean, you can put something like, just to
Kurt,
give you.
you were on the
I'll
same
do-
plane as I was. What's the correct terminology for?
Well, I mean, I think you're saying something to the fact of some type of solid
Solid
screening.
screening.
Yeah. It'd be ideal if they enhanced it with landscaping to soften anything, but at
Mhm.
least solid screening, meeting the approval of, you know, form and type, meeting the approval of the Plan and Zoning Commission. I mean, so you have some direction, but you're also giving direction, that you don't want some open slatted thing,
Right.
and you're saying solid, that's, I think that would,
You just use the word just put in solid screening. Other thing must be. Yeah, you could just add in,
That works, just put the word solid in there, and leave the, we still have the approval.
yeah, that's not gonna change. Other thing must be. All right, we can work on that language. Anything else? I'll open up to the public. If you'd like to speak on this application, please just come up, name and address, and state your comment.
Dom Delvecchio, 847 Forest Road, Northford. Just a quick comment on the bring your own booze regarding restaurants. I mean, it's really strongly discouraged in the industry only because of the liability concern. Just to raise that point again, if you consulted with any attorney, they would advise you not to do that, only because once you allow someone to consume liquor on your premises, whether it's a restaurant, whatever, and they leave that site, you are held legally responsible for allowing that consumption of alcohol on your premises. So it's
Yeah,
very...
that's not, I mean, we do not prefer it, but that is.
But that's,
an
you know,
owner
just
of
to think
if-
that-
If an owner of a property you know, the 4 or 5 properties that we have, if they put it on there, they can do that. So that's one of the reasons why I've, you know, put this
Yeah,
application.
Correct me
together.
if I'm wrong, there are other restaurants in North Branford that do not serve alcohol. You can bring your own. And. yeah.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
not.
I'm just saying it's
And they're
strongly
functioning.
discouraged
So
because of liability.
I don't think you're correct there, that.
No, well,
That, I
it's-
mean, there are large restaurants functioning very well in North Branford.
Right.
We bring your own.
I'm not saying it's not allowed, I'm just saying that it's strongly discouraged. If you were to seek advice from council, they would strongly discourage you from doing it.
From the owner's side,
Because
you
of the
mean-
liability.
You mean from the owner's side seeking counsel, not from
Correct.
us?
Right,
Right.
correct,
Yeah.
correct, not you, but
Yeah, I
from
just
the
want
owners,
to,
right.
yeah.
And that's the reason you don't see it a lot, is because you're exposed to all that liability. As soon as he leaves the site, if there's an accident, he consumed the alcohol at your premise, then you're legally responsible for, you know, allowing the consumption of the alcohol at your place of business.
But if it's bring your own bottle, that's not in your control of.
But
what-
it's on your premises, and that's the issue, and the law is very clear on that. You're allowing it to take place. If high school students come in, and they come in with a 6-pack, and it's a pizza parlor, and they start drinking beer, and you know, it's visible, you see it occurring, and they leave that site after having an accident, they're gonna come back to that restaurant owner, and that's why the bring your own booze is it's not very popular. I mean, certainly it does happen, but it's not very popular because of liability concern. But just, you know, it's a side point anyway, just wanted to point that out.
Kerry, can you research that, in that if it,
It's no
Yeah,
different
but-
than if it's
yeah,
in
but-
your house.
But that's moot here. Let's
Yeah.
not get caught up in this. It's moot. We don't.
Yeah, it's
if
just a
the
side
BYOB
point.
is,
Yeah,
if that's up to the owner of an establishment. We don't have any control over that.
yeah,
Right? Not for this regulation. So I
Okay.
mean,
right.
that could be something that.
And once again, just to remind you guys, I know you know this, that, you know, certainly this regulation does not apply to any one particular piece of property. It has to be enforceable going forward. It's intended, you know, for future use for the development of other properties, restaurants, businesses. So it's very important to be clear and concise in the regulation as to exactly what you want, because it has to be enforceable. If you can't enforce it, it's obviously a useless piece of legislation, and that, especially being in such close proximity to schools, churches, places of public gathering, you know, young adults, children, and so forth. And the concern about the, you know, everyday exposure to the sale of alcohol advertisements, and so forth. We've gone through this before. But I guess the key concern, one of the concerns is, and I raised this at the very first meeting, you're not going to be able to regulate the, you know, the restaurant, so-called restaurant use by the menu itself. I think we all agreed on that. That I showed you examples of, you had a very fine menu, but it turned out to be a sports bar with 70% of the floor area designated to the bar. And so it's extremely difficult just to regulate based upon a menu and.
Well, what we did is those, on those comments, we took them, and, because we stated that, you know, the service bar, you know, it's only for storage and dispensing, and no counters, and no bar. So I mean, so we eliminated that based on those comments that you provided.
Right, right. And I think you're working through it, you know, correctly, but I'm just raising these concerns that the restaurant definition itself at the end of the regulation regarding, you know, prepared foods and so forth. I understand why it's there, and I agree with Fran. I think the primary purpose of this legislation is to ensure that the use of alcohol on the premises is incidental. It's not the primary use of the business. It's an incidental use associated with the primary use, which is the restaurant, and that's the focus that we need to maintain on this. Whether that language is strong enough, the definition of restaurant, I'm not sure. I'm glad Kerry clarified the 45% issue, because I was really confused as to what that meant. You know, the restaurant, I would think maybe you would want to, if you're going to put anything there on floor space limitation, possibly ensuring that the seating arrangements, you know, must occupy, I'm just throwing up numbers, 70% of the floor space. But, you know, if you're really concerned about it being a fine dining establishment with seating, that would be one of the things. The other concern is on the new regulation here, let's see, the service bar, and I think Ron had raised this concern earlier. Says service of beer and wine only shall be allowed
All right, service bars will only be allowed for the storage of beer and wine only. Now,
And dispensing, we added dispensing, storage and dispensing.
oh, you added that as well?
Yeah, because some of the pictures you showed us had like, it
Okay.
would have like a, a tap. You put-
Well, I showed you those nice
Yeah,
service
no,
bars. I
but
mean,
no,
they were
that's-
rather
yeah.
elaborate. I
Right,
mean, they were
we had
considered
some language
service
in there,
bars,
but
right.
we wanted to make sure that we clarify it's only for storage and
Right.
dispensing.
And I think that one of the concerns around just raising, I kind of agree with them on this, and I actually went to a restaurant last week and I kind of noticed this, that they didn't really have they didn't really have a service bar, but what they had is an entire wall just covered with wine bottles. And basically, I just think you need some further discussion. Service bars will only be allowed for the storage of beer and wine only. The only thing that I would add to that is only accessible to employees and not within the view of the dining or seating area of the
Well,
restaurant.
we talked about that, and,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's viewable, I mean, what kind of impact? If you're inside and you see it, or
Yeah.
if there's a wall, that has some things on there, that's inside, that's not outward facing. So I don't know if we really need to get into telebusiness, what they can, promote. I mean, if they wanna put in, maybe they're a collector of, old beer bottles, and they like to just put that up there, just as, as a decoration or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if we really wanna get into what they can and cannot do within their establishment. I mean, as long as it's not outward facing, not like it's signage and stuff.
Right,
facing out
You're
the
saying if it's
window.
in the restaurant,
It's
pretty
in the
much if they
restaurant,
want
it's in
a
the
wall
restaurant.
of wine, they could have a wall of wine as long as there isn't any,
Yeah.
I guess my concern,
But
they have the
but
service bar.
one of the things is it's illegal
Yeah.
for somebody other to just grab or go in and serve yourself
Right.
in the establishment. So I don't think we need to address that.
The place you're thinking of they're a big restaurant, and they do have the wall, but it's all encased. People just can't go up, I mean, the waitresses go up and they can have to unlock it to get it to pull the bottle out.
Right.
It's a whole different, concept. Their whole concept is different.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at it from an enforcement
Yep.
perspective. Going forward, you get one shot at this special use permit. It applies in perpetuity for forever and time, so that it's gonna be difficult to go back through the special use permit to enforce it. So it's important to be clear for enforcement purposes exactly what it is you want, because if there are any improvements, alterations, new owners, renovations, you don't get a second shot at them coming back with a special use permit. It already exists, you allowed it, so you want to be clear on exactly what you want. Now, item number 3, where you say seating at bars or counters shall be prohibited, could that be confusing if you were interpreting this in court and you said seating at bars? Well, we've already determined that bars are not allowed, right?
Just trying to reiterate the point, just to make it very clear.
But I'm just wondering.
Yeah, and it says no bars,
For service at tables only.
Yeah.
All right, so that's how you want to make sure that, because that was is it
Well, we-
contradictory where you're saying no seating at bars? Would someone say, okay, well, I have a bar, but we use it for standing purposes? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out.
We just
for-
wanted to make sure that by saying
Yeah.
no bars or counters will be allowed, that the only option after that is a table or something like
Do you
that.
do you
So-
see no bars will be allowed? I don't see that.
Yes, seating at bars or counters
Seating
shall
at
be.
bars, okay.
Right,
But you would allow a bar where they?
No.
No. All
no,
right.
no, no.
I guess it's just unclear, I'm just pointing it out, not, whether or not it needs further discussion or not. And, like you say, the important thing is to make sure that you can enforce it, because someone has to interpret this and enforce it going forward. And I think that's where the challenge lies in this. And that's all I have to say for the moment.
All right, thank
Thanks.
you. Anybody else?
Fire, Northford, Connecticut. Quick question. How is this going to affect Jerome Harrison? I have a granddaughter that goes there. I'm very concerned. Some stuff was brought out of town council the other night. I don't know if you've heard about it or not.
Yeah, again, the parking issue. Oh.
Not the parking. The
Do you
sharing of
think
merit.
that if it was 500 feet,
Well,
it would be
wait a minute.
different?
Let me finish the question before you give me
Okay.
the answer. Maybe it'll work better. Okay, how's this going to affect Jerome Harrison? They're sharing Merritt Road. The impression was made that this is only a daytime activity going at the school. That's the last thing that happens. That school is used day and night for activities. Merritt is a tight road to begin with, and alcohol and small children don't mix. If a person comes out of the restaurant, tries to turn right because maybe there's not enough room to turn left, he's going to end up on a dead-end road right next to a school. I don't know what his alcohol content's going to be at that moment, but I am concerned as a grandparent, if my granddaughter happens to be outdoors at that time and a child and alcohol don't mix in the car, you know what I'm saying? So you're going to make some pretty strong decisions that are going to affect a lot of people in this town. So I think you really, really have to look at the footage. I mean, and I think if I want to go to a restaurant, I'm going to have to bring my lawyer to say, well, can we sit here? And he's going to have to. You're regulating yourself into a corner.
Well, now, the regulation's the business owner. Is
Yeah.
we're telling him, we're suggesting, or we're telling him that it's only table service, it's only beer and wine. Now, for your example too, I mean, you talk about around the school and coming off of Merritt Drive, but let's say within a quarter mile, you have a couple establishments that serve more than beer and wine. Okay, they travel on Route 80. We have cars exiting the school, whether it's even the high school
But
or
they're-
Jerome. But I mean, just saying. But if this is your concern about traffic and people
Do
in
those
cars,
establishments share the road with the school?
yeah, Route 80. Jerome,
No, not a major artery. A
Well,
small town, not a state highway. Let's use the word state
I'm
highway.
just talking about the establishments.
Well, I understand that.
I'm-
Those
but I mean, you
establishments
have-
are on a state highway, not a small, narrow town road.
Well, it shares Route 80 as well.
Yes, at the end, but Merritt Drive is a small, narrow, dead-end town road. One way in, one way out. There's effects that is going to have on Merritt Drive, which is going to directly affect the school, no matter how you rule.
But how did it affect it previously with the same?
Because the footage was there, and I don't believe, if you eliminate the footage in the regulation, then you're going to open up a bag of worms.
And what do you mean by open up a bag of worms?
Because you had the footage in the regulation, right?
Right. So we're just allowing.
Are you
Those-
eliminating the footage?
Yes.
Well, then you're opening up a bag of worms.
Well, it's 4 or 5 different properties that throughout the town. It's not a large number of properties. It's 4
But
or
it's
5.
one property that's pretty important to me because my granddaughter attends that school. I'm sensitive.
Without
But-
without this proposal, they can still consume alcohol on that property.
I understand that. But if you remove the footage, you've eliminated any chance of buffering the school from the establishment.
No, but it doesn't. Is Dave saying that the footage for bringing your own beverage does not.
All right,
Right. So what we're doing is we're saying
Yes, I
that we
understand.
want to regulate what goes on.
all right,
You know, I
so,
mean, we want to support the business, but also we want to put a regulation
All right.
that will work for all. Because
So,
right now they
okay.
can bring their own in, and they can still do it.
so let's say this then, BYOB is a non-issue, no matter if there's 500 feet or 0 feet, right? Is
Correct.
that what you're telling me? All right, so let's go back to the issues. Issuing a liquor license where within the 500 feet, that now can be controlled, is what I'm looking for you to do as a citizen of this town with family in the town.
But I'm just wondering, if the establishment was 500 feet,
Yes,
exactly where it is right now, but 100 feet in, and they still had Merritt Road that they went in and out of, where's the difference here?
because you've got a buffer that you can enforce, 500
What,
feet.
100? No. It's already 500 feet. If we made it 400 feet, where would the difference be? I mean,
Well-
if that was the scenario, this accident could happen whether this restaurant was 100 feet east of it, making it 500 feet, or it's where it sits now at 400 feet.
Well, let me ask you, don't you have a better chance of seeing something with 500 feet versus 0 feet?
How many
Well,
houses?
the entrance is still there. I mean, it's
I know.
The entrance
I mean,
is
you have a
taken-
tough
yeah.
decision to make, but as a citizen, I'm asking you to keep that buffer. It's as simple as that. To have a bar next to school's not a good mix,
It's not. There's no bar allowed.
so far.
There can't be. If the regulation doesn't have it, you cannot have a bar you cannot serve any type of liquor. It's only beer and wine.
Yeah.
If there's anything that happens other than that, I believe one would be the zoning enforcement officer, but also I think that would be the liquor board. The state would probably yank a license for serving without a license. So there's some protections that we have there.
All right, well, I'm just, as a citizen, asking you to keep the footage in there. And I don't think I'm the only one here with that thought tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll hear from them. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Oh, go ahead, please.
I'm Abigail Walston of Great Hill Road, and I'm a parent of a kindergartner. So I share views with Cliff. I just wanted to point out that I really don't see a benefit to the town as a whole and to the citizens as a whole of changing the established regulation that's been there for quite a while. Obviously, that 500 feet was put in there for a reason. I wasn't around when it was put in, but I'm assuming it was for the safety of the children. So I really don't see why we would want to make that change. And I don't see a benefit for the town. I see a benefit for the individual restaurant and future restaurants that may decide to come in and serve alcohol next to playgrounds and churches and schools in town. So I really just don't see a benefit. The other issue I wanted to bring up is that it doesn't seem right. Maybe it's not illegal, but it doesn't seem right that the Board of Ed and the superintendent and the principal of the school were not contacted immediately when this came through, when it could have such a big impact. So I just wanted to point that out, that seems unethical, and it seems like professional courtesy would be to let them know that this was on the table so that they could make a statement about it. So as a parent and as a taxpaying citizen, I just want to reiterate that I really don't see a benefit to the majority of the town. I see a benefit to single business or future businesses. And I just would like to see more transparency with issues that are affecting such a large proportion of the population of the children in town. Thank you.
Anybody else? Al?
Al Rose, 40 Valley Road. And I want to be perfectly clear, I'm speaking as a citizen, nothing to do with the town council. So, and you know, I don't want to get into a debate, so I'll make some comments. If you don't like them, you can, answer back. But I disagree with your, like you're shying away from the parking issue. I know that this text amendment doesn't have anything to do with the parking issue, but this particular piece of property is all about the parking. Your approved site plan has already failed miserably without having people there hanging out a little longer drinking. Because, the people have seen the employees from the restaurant parking in over at Jerome Harrison, getting out with their aprons and walking across to go there. So I don't think there's any of you up here, and I'm not going to put ideas in your head, that think there's enough parking on that postage stamp piece of property. So I'm against, I give you guys credit for thinking outside the box and saying, hey, what can we do for businesses in town? But, I'm telling you to look elsewhere. This is the wrong piece of property to, try and make it into a big boy property. It's a little boy property. There's plenty of properties that could handle a restaurant that can be successful and serve alcohol, that aren't on a postage stamp piece of property, that nothing fits there. And everything has been a disaster from the beginning of this project over there, including, the curb that was put in at the request of Fran Marola was ripped out 2 days later. So think about who you're gonna make a deal with. Think about the parking. And then I just wanna say, and I think that we're gonna have a bigger discussion about this in town with text amendments. There needs to be notification. Whether it was the propane one or whether it's this one, we are going to have a conversation in town that changes how this is done. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with the text. I mean, we publicize the same way we've been for many, many years, and the
Yep.
same exact time. So I mean, if there's whether it's it's the sound, correct?
Correct.
Yep. So it's a sound. I mean,
2 times.
whether we use maybe start including the Tucket Times, or maybe even posting up on the
Well,
website. But I mean,
okay.
I mean, I
So
can't
having
control
said
who
that-
sees it and who doesn't see it. You know how that goes.
Having said that, right,
Yeah.
who sees it? But it didn't say a specific restaurant. It's a telephone number on Route 80, okay? And the thing that bothers me is that it was in the paper as the town of North Branford was the applicant.
We were.
No,
Yes.
the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission
Correct.
was the applicant, not the town of North Branford, okay? Because you know as well as I do, if it's the town of North Branford, everyone thinks that the town council's doing it. So in the future, put down either the town planner or the Planning and Zoning
Gotcha.
Commission is gonna do this. It's not the town of North Branford.
Wait a minute. I take offense in the fact that we don't represent the town of North Branford.
You do represent
The same
it.
way the town council represents the town of North Branford. We both have the same lawyer. So I guess the question is.
Right, but-
We can't,
You guys are the Planning and Zoning Commission. You people were the one doing this. Nobody else in town was doing this. Okay, so put in the paper that the North Branford, other towns do it, other towns list the
I know,
Planning and
that's a
Zoning
good
Commission
suggestion.
of a
We've been
different
doing this
town
for-
is doing it.
We've been putting this in for years the same exact way, and people have shown up to plan and zoning, but we'll clarify it going forward.
I
Thank
think
you.
we do, Al.
Yeah, well,
And
Because the agenda for the meeting says petition of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission
It was
to
revised.
amend.
It was revised.
It
So,
was.
all right.
When I saw
We'll
the
make-
applicant was
We'll make sure
the,
it's clear in the
Town
future
Right,
for
in
you.
the paper it was.
all right.
But yeah, the town council should take it up of looking at other alternatives to get the word out. So that would.
No, I
we'll
think
make sure-
that
we'll
we
let you-
all have learned that lesson.
Well, no,
We're
we'll
still
make sure,
licking
we'll
our
just make, I
wounds.
mean, but that would be the town council's decision where to put it, so then it could, for every commission, so when there's things, put up website, whether it's using Tucket Times, but, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else would like to speak on that?
On this text amendment that came out,
It's
how
identified.
do you approve,
Yeah, for the record, name and address.
it's Mike Duty.
Thanks.
How do you approve a restaurant that size, with that many seating capacities, with that few parking spaces? And expect employees and the, public to go in there and sit down and eat, or employees who work there? You just created a big problem for the town of North Branford and the people that live on Merrick Drive and the Board of Education as to what enforcement that they're gonna have to take now.
I'm gonna have to clarify this too. I mean, we've heard some people talk about this tonight and be previous, but prior to the current ownership, there's been parking on Merritt Drive and at Jerome when the previous owner for years. If there was a problem if there was a problem with the administration of the school seeing cars parking there and using the old pizzeria, if there was parking on Merritt Drive and the property owners had an issue, the one response is not to planning and zoning, would be to the police department to enforce the parking, whether it's putting up signs, which I think it's been talked about now with Franny, but this is an issue, the parking issue at that establishment. First of all, it used to be a dirt parking lot. The current owner put together a parking plan where the previous owner, sometimes you could park 4 cars in there, depending on the way people pulled in. Sometimes you could park 10. He came up with a parking plan that this board we said, this looks good compared to what it is, using the same footprint of the building, coming up with a structured parking area, which was much better compared to the no parking lot or a lined area that was there previously. Any parking issues that any of the residents of Merritt Drive have with this owner, or that's happened at Jerome, has to be taken care of with the North Branford Police Department.
They have.
If there's no parking signs, they should put them up there, but that's the responsibility of the, whether it's Fran to put up some signs and the police department to enforce that.
Right, we spoke to Fran last night, and the
Yeah,
signs
so,
are,
I
the
mean,
signs
so
are
as
going
I
up,
mentioned earlier.
and they're gonna
that's-
enforce it.
Right, so that's what they have, that's
And
what
the
they
board,
should be doing.
and the Board of Education is gonna enforce their part of it.
That's exactly what should be done.
But my question is, for the seating capacity versus the parking capacity,
Regulations.
who oversaw that? I mean, you have 41 tables or 20 tables, but you have parking for 20 cars,
The parking's based on the square footage of the patron area.
And it's in our regulation.
which was how much?
Well, the applicant received a variance from the zoning board of appeals for 24 parking spaces.
So it was a zoning board of appeals.
So, I mean, again, that's another, it's out, if you got a variance, came to us, we looked at the site plan, we put that in there. That's what we have to work with. So, I mean, again, it's the police department, it's the town council also taking in consideration for the, what was it, not the easement, but what was it?
Temporary easement or revocable license.
So
Right, so
my
the-
question was,
so the
how
town
much,
council approved
how much
that.
was the parking reduced by the ZBA?
Yes, it was 3.
Right, so I mean, so there was 3 to get the variance on the original, but then when the expanded, what's it going to, 20?
No, it's still, they're
They're
maybe
looking
at
to go to
25.
25.
Yeah,
So
so they're getting a
one
couple
more.
more.
And how much was the building expanded from the original site plan?
Are we talking about the liquor permit or
Yeah,
something
I mean,
else?
I'm just, yeah, we're gonna move off of that. But again, zoning board of appeals provided, they gave them the reduced parking. Town council allowed for the expansion to get a couple more.
Well, we didn't allow that yet.
Yeah, that's coming back.
Well, okay,
That-
all right,
that's coming
so
back.
that's, okay, but whatever.
There's a couple other
But the
bylaws.
site plan,
Until the curb is
okay,
moved out.
just, the site plan right now, the way it sets, has been approved because of the variance on, that was provided by zoning board of appeals. Any of the parking issues, again, is not part of this permit, or this application for this amendment.
Wait, it is.
It's not.
It is when you overflow into the school
It's
parking lot
not.
and you
That's-
overflow onto the street.
Again, that's a successful business. I cannot, the planning and zoning cannot dictate if a patron decides to park on Merritt or decides to go into Jerome. The police department will have to put up signs, or Fran, and then enforce it. We do not have the enforcement. We have a site plan where it allows for X amount of parking that was approved by the zoning board of appeals and came to us for a site plan. It fit to what they were, it was their approval. We looked at it, Kurt took a look at it, we made some changes to the flow, changed some of the striping, and that's what we approved. So that, I mean, we cannot change the parking, you know, this commission cannot affect the parking into the other lots. The only one that, the police department is the only one that can enforce that.
So heaven forbid, somebody that was intoxicated comes in, picks up a pizza, has to park in the school parking lot, unfortunately runs over a kid because there's no more parking in the lot or in the street, and then who do we go to?
So Mike, you just
for
said
an
they come in
answer?
intoxicated. Maybe they went to duties and got drunk and then came to get the pizza on the way home.
Yeah. went to
All
a
right,
bar
let's stop,
and eat.
let's stop.
I know.
If you have something to speak on this application, please speak it, otherwise please let somebody else.
That's what I asked.
Okay, we're waiting for
That's-
your comments on this then, not about the parking.
Well, the restaurant. It's the application
Okay,
around
it's not
town.
about a site plan of a restaurant, it's about a changing of a regulation that is more than just one property. If you have something to speak on
It's-
that, if you have something to speak on this application, please do.
Right.
Otherwise, please
And
have
I'm
a seat and we'll have
I'm
some.
saying for the properties that you're doing away with the 500-foot space, you're asking for a serious problem. Same as Cliff said.
Okay,
You're asking
Thank
for
you.
a serious problem.
thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this?
Joanne Duty, once again, want to go on record for just being opposed to this change. I don't think there needs to be a change. This is the 4th meeting, I think, with all the third, with all the particulars that are going on. But it's just hit me in the head really hard. You're setting Pasiglio's up to fail. There's more parking. there's not enough parking, there's more seating.
Parking isn't the issue.
Okay, parking isn't the issue. I know you're tired of hearing about parking. The zoning board of appeals got involved, planning and zoning is involved.
Well, that's
The
the
other
town process.
right, and it's the
Yeah.
process, and it seems like everybody is having second thoughts about what they've done. We can't talk about parking, but the parking is a problem here.
Do you think that that them serving wine and beer
I think
makes
that-
parking
I think that
any different
BYOB
than it was before, when they used to park there anyhow?
There
And nothing was done about
there wasn't the amount of traffic in the past as there is now.
Well, that's
It's-
probably,
it's
it has
it's a
nothing to do with.
beautiful restaurant,
It
and
has nothing to do with right now, they don't serve, they don't have the beer and liquor, so.
So what is the benefit of having it? You say it's going to better
What I'm
have you
saying is that as
regulate.
far as the overflow into the parking lots, they shouldn't be there anyhow. So whether they serve or not,
So once
the police
again,
department has to be
I go
involved.
back to where I just like to point out that you've set this gentleman up to fail. Now his customers are going to have the police called on them because there's not adequate parking.
But
There's
it
more,
doesn't ma- But again, it doesn't matter. Let's move off of this point. It's not about the parking. The success or failure of business is strictly on the business owner, okay?
with the
If-
town's backing.
We didn't with
He
town's backing.
he wouldn't have a business if he hadn't gotten permission. He went through all the right channels. Everybody's falling over themselves is what it looks like to me. I don't know why you are so fired up about changing this regulation when, as I pointed out, the other 4 properties are mute. It's this one property that's going to be affected. Nobody else. Absolutely nobody else. You confirmed you haven't heard from or even, you're talking down the future.
Anytime we do a regulation that's a amendment like this, we always look at what future impacts there are when we do it. It's not just about one, it's future impacts. That's what
Okay.
any regulation.
And you're happy with the future impacts that you've seen with what's happened so far? You have no problem.
A successful business in our town?
Oh, I think
Yeah.
we need more success,
Well,
more
I
businesses.
don't know what you, I don't
But I don't think we
understand the
need them,
question.
I don't think we need them within 500 feet of a school, a church,
So
or
you're saying
public
no
gathering.
business should be allowed near a school then?
No business that potentially could cause harm.
Well, that's any
And I'm
business
talking
because if
firsthand-
Any business that you put in there, that anybody, where there's a car, there's a chance of.
If it was
somebody-
a dry cleaners,
Well, there's still
you
a chance
know,
of accident.
it's
I mean,
in and
I'm
out,
trying
in
to
and out,
understand what
in
you-
and out. What I'm
That's-
talking about
right.
is an establishment that serves beer and wine. You're, like Dominic said, you're setting a precedent. It's a special use. Once it's in, it's not coming back out. That's all.
Right.
I'm not gonna.
But again, we have, the one thing was you still have the potential for BYOB and you.
Who
it's not
governs
regulated.
BYOB?
I believe it's the state.
The state?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not, yes. Right.
You
So
know.
the consumption of beer and wine and alcohol can be happening right now.
Okay, and if he gets a license for.
Beer and
under
wine
this,
only.
That's it?
That's it.
Alcohol is out of it?
Yeah,
Correct.
yes.
Okay.
That's what the amendment is.
Beer and wine only.
Okay.
We're not allowing bars, we're not allowing,
Okay.
you know, hard liquor, we're not
How
allowing.
often have any of you brought your own beer and wine into a restaurant?
I can personally
Not-
say that there's been a
Quite
number of
often.
places I've gone that is a BYOB establishment, and we
Okay.
usually bring our own beverage.
But it's got to be considerably less than when it's offered.
What do you mean
okay.
less?
You're going to have less alcohol, beer, wine, and alcohol, as you're saying, if I have to bring it myself, than if I can go in and have it served to me.
That's
It's cheaper if you bring it yourself.
But that's just the drinking habits of the individual. I can't.
Okay.
Can
I
we get
just-
back
I
on,
just-
on the topic?
So you're against,
Yes, it
Okay.
wasn't broken, I don't think it needs to be fixed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
You know, I'd like to make one comment here. We're going off on all
Yeah.
different kinds of tangents. The purpose of this is, as it stands right now, and I want to point out, my granddaughter goes to Jerome Harrison and is in kindergarten also. Now, what we have is that anybody can go anywhere around the perimeter of the school with a bottle and drink. Now, that being said, what we want to do is put controls on it to tie that in. Right now, you're concerned about drunks driving down the street. Well, they can get intoxicated in their car, but you know yourself, if it's BYOB, you're going to bring a bottle in of wine. Whereas if you're at a restaurant, you may buy one glass. But if you have your own bottle there, you know, you're gonna make a dent in it. So the way I look at this is, we're in fact putting controls, restrictions on this, on something that already exists. People can, you know, buy a pizza, sit up against the fence, you know, with the 30-pack of beer. And we're putting restrictions on that. So that's my statement, and.
Thank you.
Okay, my
and
comment
and
is,
basically, that's the topic.
yes.
Let's not talk about parking
I'm not.
and,
It's the type of, if you go to a dry cleaners, you don't come out stiff. Well, you do if you get too much starch. But, I mean, it's a type of establishment. It's an alcohol distributing possible place, that's all. Now, you did say you're concerned, as citizens of the town, representing citizens of the town. I'm asking you to keep the public hearing extended. We talked with Kurt, it can be extended. So in fairness to the Board of Ed, they can come and talk. Tonight, they're trying to save their necks with their checkbook.
It was our intention to leave this open tonight.
Fine,
based on
you know, that's
the
all we're
comments.
asking.
Yeah.
I don't think we're here to badge you. I mean, I always respect anybody that sits behind any public commission because it pays lousy, the hours are worse. But we appreciate it. But also, you're representing us, and you have to hear our thoughts.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, it'll help you make a decision. And you're right, the parking may not be part of the issue, but the condition of the type of business is going in there is. If it was a dry cleaner, you'd probably have empty seats, but it's not a dry cleaning outfit. It's a pizza place, and so I thank you for extending the hearing so the Board of Ed members can speak.
Can I
Thank
just
you.
again ask you, as I asked the other person, aside from the parking and all that, which we're not talking about, is that if that establishment was 100 feet east of where it is now, do you think that it would make that big a difference?
Yes.
On your arguments that
Sure would.
people are going to get intoxicated?
No. 99% of the patrons aren't going to be a problem. It's the one that can't control this alcohol that is. 500 feet braking distance is a lot more than 0 feet.
It's not 0 feet, it's 400.
Well, whatever. That extra 100 feet might save my granddaughter. If that person's impaired and can't hit the brakes in time.
how many people
It's
in
a
there
safety
drive
issue.
drunk?
It's and I'm not saying everybody going in there should take a breathalyzer test. But you know yourself, haven't you been to a restaurant where there's an obnoxious drunk and kind of ruins your meal? You've never had that happen? I want to go where you go. You know?
I mean, first of all,
So again,
it's-
so that
it's the
person.
restaurant's responsibility
Exactly.
also, not to serve that person that.
Exactly,
or
but
not
does
to
that
allow
always
him
happen?
to leave.
Does that always happen?
Again, there's an option for BYOB, and that's.
And I know,
that
and
you would not be able to
as soon
refer-
as you informed me that, I put that over that corner and I didn't go back to it.
Right, I want you to go back to it, though,
Well,
actually. I just want you to think about that, too.
well, I know it, but
As
you
Ron
can't,
mentioned, as Ron mentioned,
but you can't control it, I can't control it,
Right.
only the state can control it. So
Right.
it's not under your realm of
but
responsibility
under
at
this
this moment.
regulation, there is a responsible party that's called the owner.
Yeah.
That is responsible for that, where otherwise, if it's BYOB, the responsibility is still with
A
the
good-
owner, but it can be.
A good lawyer will
very
get you,
well.
a good lawyer will win a case like that. You and I
Oh, no,
know that.
understand. I'm just saying that. I'm not worried about winning the case. I'm just saying that the owner or whoever's managing the business at that time has a lot less control to see what somebody's habits are throughout the
Right.
small time that they're there ordering dinner, when they are would be actually being served.
Right.
So I'm just saying that.
And everybody's alcohol intolerance is a different level. One
Right.
person can be drunk on one beer, a seasoned drinker, which I am not. 10 beers, you're not even feeling it.
Right.
But when and you're not going to have him doing blood alcohol checks.
Right.
But I would like to see the 500 feet saved. It might be enough braking distance. And I want to thank you for extending the Board of Ed,
Thank you.
the effort, the chance to come back. Thank you.
Anybody else like this?
I'm Linda DiFrancesco, Walker Road. Bear with me, I'm quite windy sometimes. This town was promoting, since I've been here for 40 years, family-oriented, family-friendly. We have our schools family-friendly. We're doing all this stuff like that. We had tragedy years ago with Newtown. Everybody put in, I can't even go into a school and collect my grandchildren anymore without showing ID and all that. It's like in lockdown, and it's great. But we're doing all this for our children to keep them what? Healthy and alive. Then all of a sudden now, you want to put a restaurant and deviate that 500 to 400. I'm against this whole package of regulations and
We have a
everything.
point of order. Sorry, Linda, but I think you, and I think Carrie, you need to step up here and correct Mrs. Leskovich. If you're not going from 500 to 400, you're going from 500 to
Or it's
0
being
on this
eliminated.
property. That was the one in North.
No, there was
we
an,
were talking
there
about.
was an example that Fran was going to.
She
It's
was saying
eliminated.
she believes that it's going to 400 feet, and you're going to 0. And I think that somebody should correct her.
Let me just speak on my behalf. I was under, somewhere I missed the boat here because I thought we were just changing it to 400 feet. That was my
We're
argument.
eliminating
Going to 0. Okay? All right, so I'm glad you, Linda, I'm sorry.
That's
But
okay.
I couldn't let her misrepresent.
I thought it was going to 400 too, so
Okay,
thank you.
going to 0.
But anyways, we have all this protection for our children, and now you're going to throw away that 500 feet thing and just put all these people that might come out drunk and let them at our children. Now, nobody's addressed the children. I've gone to all my grandchildren's stuff at that school. Any activity after school, parking's horrendous. They are all over that road and all around, all right? Games at night, parents, things at night, any activities and all. And children are children, kindergarten on up. They don't walk with their parents. They're excited. They run out in front of a car. I've seen it. You all have grandchildren, children. How many times did you grab a kid back? I don't think any of you can say you haven't. So now you have someone that might have had a drink, half a drink too much, coming out, parking at the same areas, and fighting for the same space at the same time. Because you're not going to tell people they can't eat at the restaurant when the school has a function, and they need all that area. So you're setting it up right there to have a tragedy. I hope it never occurs. God forbid. Hope it never occurs. But law probability, anybody takes statistics in college, it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, the same thing I was trying to allude to before. I mean, if that's the case too, within less than a quarter mile of the school, there's 3 full bars.
Doesn't matter.
No, but I'm just saying.
No, that doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking. You
I'm
said we
saying
can't
you-
talk
No, but
parking.
I'm just saying, no, I'm just talking about.
Don't talk
no,
other
no,
bars.
I'm not talking
I'm
about
talking
parking.
500 feet, I am talking this bar, and that's what this says. And I don't agree with anything it says on it or what it wants to do. I love my grandchildren, I love all your children. It is just not right. But I mean, we build ourselves up to be this great town for families. And what do? We tell them, you don't mean anything. We don't care about your kids
I
or your
disagree.
grandchildren.
If you-
No, because
I
you're having
disagree.
somebody.
I
And
disagree that you think that these people on this committee don't care about kids.
you have to, because now
But no, you just said
now,
we don't, so I want to just clarify that's an untrue
then you would think
statement.
about this a little better.
And let
You
me
really
just-
would.
Linda, let me just interrupt you because I'll have to ask the board about this. We're saying right here that we're reducing the, then the required set, we should be reduced to 400 feet. Where are you
So
saying that
then
it's
in
not?
in the bold, and then keep reading in the bold, with the exception that liquor outlets for consumption on premises, so that would be restaurants, located less than the required separating distance specified herein, which would be the 400 or 500 feet, may be allowed if they conform to section 42.5.16 and a special use permit, which is on page 2.
Unfortunately, that's not the way I have read it, nor is it the way that I'm understanding
Okay,
it.
but that-
I thought we were reducing it, and that was my argument, the difference between 500 feet and 400 feet.
Well, no, because really the property line is, I mean, from where the site, it's
Well,
pretty
and-
much 0. It's right across, I mean, it's right there.
Tell them to read this.
It's away from
In
the
the
parking lot and the
500
school
Bear in
entrance.
mind within
But-
500 feet.
But,
Public hearing.
yeah, no, okay,
All right.
thank you.
Hey,
All
Fran.
right, and
Fran.
now, suppose you get, just suppose, some scenarios, because nobody's played these scenarios out. Suppose you get a guy going home from work, he lost his job, he's bummed, he hates everybody in the world. He stops to get a pizza and he's gonna drink himself into sorrow. And nobody's paying attention, because that does happen. Goes out, kills somebody's kid. I mean, you know, if he went to duties, he'd at least have that much more footage to hit a pole and kill himself, rather than somebody's child. You really have to
But no,
think
you-
of all these things. Now, wait a minute, I've still got the floor. Suppose you have it and you say, oh, but this is the lesser of two evils, because that's what I'm hearing you say. The lesser of two evils is to give him his permit so you can regulate it, because otherwise he's gonna have BYOB. I would rather have them go for BYOB. Because you know what? When I go to BYOB, I bring a bottle of wine. That's it. And there's usually 4 of us. How far does that go? Nobody's getting drunk on that one. Even if you brought 2 bottles of wine, it's not, nobody's getting drunk. You have people, they go into a restaurant, they meet friends, they stay longer, they start drinking. They drink more than 1 and 2 bottles of wine a lot of times. So if you're serving, you are going to consume more than if you BYOB. You never see anybody in a BYOB bring a huge bag of tons of beer or bottles and bottles and bottles of alcohol. And only if it's a holiday. And talk about holidays. Now this place is going to have holidays. They're going to start having parties. Well, a lot of holiday parties happen all
Are you sure
during the
that's what
day.
his businesses is going to have parties?
Probably.
Well, no, I mean, you're saying that they
Holiday
are.
parties. Everybody has holiday parties. I'm sorry.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
probability again? Do the statistics.
So
How many
What
other
do you
pizza
do on
restaurants have
holidays?
parties during Christmas? How many
Everybody
other-
does. Everybody does.
Every pizza restaurant in town has a party
Oh,
during
a lot
Christmas?
of them do.
Oh,
a lot of them
okay.
do.
Okay.
So everybody goes, has pizza, has drinks and all, and that's during hours when school's there. So I'm saying, you've got all these things you're not thinking of. I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm really against this, because we put this in our ordinance years ago to protect our children. And it seems like you're talking about everything else and everything everybody doesn't like, but nobody's here to say and protect the children and say, this is for them, and this is what, in your heart, this is what we should be doing.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have to say.
I just wanted
Your
to add.
name, each time.
Abby Walston,
Thanks.
41 Great Hill Road. I just wanted to add that there's a lot of conjecture and guessing about the BYOB versus this change to the regulations. And I just think it would be really helpful if we stopped saying, well, you could bring a 30-pack, or we might have a bottle of wine. Let's get some data and make an educated, informed decision. I think that as a committee, that's a wise course of action, so that you can recognize something like at 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon, are you more likely to have a BYOB restaurant accident while kids are getting on buses? Or are you more likely to have a restaurant where they're serving alcohol at 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think it's my job to find that information out, but I think it would be really important to have that in order for you guys to make an educated decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, did you? Al, I thought you were going to come up again.
Just one more comment. Al Rose, 40 Valley Road. Again, there's absolutely no benefit to the town. We get this many, just like you're going to 0 feet, Mrs. Leskovich, you get this many tax dollars if you do this for a restaurant. You don't get $1 more.
Thanks. Is it?
Can you announce me like you did Al, or do I
Well,
have to
didn't know. I
introduce
didn't see your
myself?
hand up. He put his hand up a couple
All right.
times like he was coming. I didn't see you behind him.
Dom Delvecchio, 847 Forest Road. Just a quick comment. Would this be the appropriate time to discuss the 1,500-foot rule for off-site consumption?
No.
I didn't think so, Harry. But the point I want to make is that, for clarity, and I'm not sure on this, and Carrie, the last time we went through this, I think there were like 55 different types of liquor permits for on-site consumption.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number.
And what I'd like you to clarify is, someone mentioned that State Liquor Commission would come down here and enforce this beer and wine only. Is there a restaurant permit for beer and wine only? Or can they only issue a liquor permit to a restaurant? Or is there actually a permit of those 55 permits? And I have the list here, I just didn't bring it with me this evening. But if you can just investigate that, I think that would be important. And because that may present a problem. If they can only issue a liquor permit for full, hard liquor, beer and wine, and they don't have that restriction, then the burden strictly falls upon the town. And that's my concern, the enforcement. Who is going to enforce this? And you guys are all bright, you're intelligent, I know you're trying to do what's best for the community, but, I think the key is enforcement, not on this property, but future properties, and to suggest that there may only be 4. Once you open Pandora's box, I think you're going to see a lot more than 4. That's my personal opinion. And the other thing I just want to raise for clarity, the reason that this minimum setback requirement exists in the town of North Branford and it doesn't exist in some of the other communities. As an example, Durham, Madison do not have a minimum setback requirement. And the reason is that there's zoning districts that permit the use of alcohol, restaurants, and businesses are all in residential zones. So they have a buffer of 1,500, 2,000, 5,000 feet. What happened in North Branford is the business community development developed around the schools and churches. So it was necessary to develop a minimum setback requirement. And that's how that came to be in North Branford. And I just want to raise that for clarity because it is important, and I think some of these people are speaking to that. But that's it.
Thanks. Anybody else?
One last time. We get a second chance because we were dealing the wrong information. All I would ask is that you all get on the same page for the next meeting. I mean, the fact that she and I were dickering over 400 feet when I was at 0, she was at 400, that's a little disheartening because you guys are the knowledge of the town.
Well, I apologize.
Well, I know.
Because apparently, either I missed the meeting where we wrote this in. I was always under the assumption that we were changing it to 400 feet.
Okay.
That was completely my fault, and it changes the way I feel about the whole regulation.
Okay, and again, I'm never going to badge you, I'm going to thank you, but you have a tough job, and just like I had a little issue with a councilman the other night, he was upset because he had to go to a lot of meetings. But when he raised his hand and he went to vote, that was part of the job. So I realize the job is intense. But again, that's what you're here for. And I wouldn't want your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, please.
Hi, my name is Alice Lear. I live on 39 Colonial Drive in North Branford. I do not have any children in the school system, but both my children went through the system successfully, and I really like the town. And I am against giving them a permit so close to our children. Thank you.
Anybody else? I see there's nobody else. We'll continue this to our next meeting, which is on
February 18th.
February 18th?
Yes, at
Okay.
7 p.m.
Next order of business is PZ application 2016-1 for accessory dwelling. Owner applicant, the Parisis.
Good evening. All we're attempting to do is enlarge the space that we're going to add on.
Hang on one second. Do you have it? Oh. You just have to read those.
What's that?
One second.
You're not serving wine or beer, are you?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Just checking.
This liquor notice was put in by the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission on January 24th and January 21st. Notice is hereby given the North Branford Planning and Zoning will hold a public hearing 7 p.m. on Thursday, February 4th at the North Branford Town Hall, 909 Foxen Road, North Branford, to consider P&Z application 2016-1 special use permit request under section 23.1, section Schedule A, line A11 to allow accessory dwelling unit over 600 feet at 505 Totucket Road, map 39A, lot 9, R80, R40 zone. Owner applicant David and Marion Parisi. At this hearing, all interested persons may be heard, and written communication will be received. Copies of the above proposals on file for public inspection at the Town Hall Planning Department.
In attendance for this public hearing are members Hallgren, Gunn, Sienna, Leskovitz, and Dulac. Now the floor is yours.
Okay. We're trying to put an addition onto my home for my wife's parents so they can move in with us. And the regulation at 600 square feet is not big enough. They're handicapped. To have a completely handicapped accessible accessory dwelling, we needed to go for another 100 square feet. So the zoning board appeals okayed it, and they said that they've come across this several times before, and they're already looking into changing to make it larger, because you can't do it in 598 square feet, with the wheelchairs and everything that you need to do. So that's all we're looking to do is make it, accessible for them in their wheelchairs.
Do you have a site plan or anything that you need designed yet, or?
We have some drawings.
Oh,
Your
I'm sorry.
packet, right?
I didn't know if they had it. Okay.
Yeah, there's-
All right.
How many square feet are we talking?
730.
700 square feet.
Oh,
How large?
700?
It's 730, I believe.
730?
698, it should be. That's what the variance was issued for.
Yeah, 690. It was for 100 feet more than the regulation.
Okay.
Was that, I'm sorry?
That was already approved by previous meeting.
So the zoning board of appeals approved a variance on December 21st to allow a 698 square foot accessory dwelling unit where only 600 feet is allowed. Did you receive any additional cards? I think there were 4, it looks like, that had not come back.
I'm sorry, Carrie, I can't hear very well, so.
Sorry. Of the green cards that you sent out notifying the abutters, did you receive any additional ones? There were 4 that were missing that had not come.
No, I sent out a lot.
There's a note on
Each
here.
one,
This is
all of these were not
Kevin Monge, he's my
members of
contractor.
Of the 500 square feet. So I sent out the ones that were previously sent out through the previous meeting. I did what the architect did. And I added one. I didn't know, I thought these were just the proximities. What I did is I looked at the line here and I gave within the 500 feet and I sent all these out.
Okay, so this list does show everyone within 500 feet.
Yeah. Oh, no, does it?
Yes.
No. Joseph Pizzato lives at, he's gotta live
He's well past 500 feet.
1,000 feet.
We have no neighbors. The town of North Branford owns the
But
property around
he
us.
owns this parcel, which is next to 400 Totucket. And he owns this parcel, which shows up as,
Well, at the previous meeting, the ones that I sent back, all of these letters and all these receipts were the same principle. What it was is, they were the peoples that live within the proximity. So when the architect sent them out in that meeting, when everything was good and everything else, we got all the receipts, everything else. What I did is I have it right here, what I did is I.
right, well, and for a ZBA application, it's a 100-foot notification, and for a special use permit, it's 500 feet.
Where you showed me, yeah.
So, yeah, we're missing 4 properties.
These are the receipts that were sent by the original. The original meeting. And what I did is I did those, and then I did another couple, or another one of them. I thought I got everybody, I just didn't touch it. We can't go back there again.
This was the list.
That you provided?
Yes.
These are
all
within 500 feet?
Right.
Yeah, because
So
you
if
flip it
turn-
over, yeah, there's the,
It might not be the house, it might be just the property line, right?
One,
That's right.
so you got these 2 back here.
that's raw land, right there. It's not even a lot, it's not even a parcel.
Keep it open.
Right here.
And
So next meeting, they have to bring verification.
Did they notify? Yeah,
I'm just,
yeah,
What's that?
yeah. We could, if we could continue the public hearing to the next meeting, have them notify the people showing proof that they notified them.
If you do that, just
that makes it 2 weeks versus the whole process. I mean, that's,
I'm sorry, Jim.
I mean, if they keep the public hearing open and continue it to, to the next meeting, the next meeting would be 2 weeks rather than going through the whole process. I mean,
Yeah.
need verification that notice has been given.
Right.
for all
And there was a
the
legal ad
property.
in the newspaper, so that was covered, but it's more just the direct notification of the residents within 500 feet.
Which would be everybody in this list that's not checked.
or, well, why don't we just,
Yes, so it's that's really just one person, right? Because there's two parcels owned by the same person. There's the,
Joey's Bazaar.
yes. And there's this 504 and 446 Totucket.
People could be consuming it on farm.
909 is the town.
We don't need to know what town, you are the town.
Right, you don't,
Oh, right, I'm pointing out, there's,
We have three parties.
three.
you have 1, 2,
These are the same.
okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, here, well, the town, this is the town.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just can't imagine there'd be so many landowners. There's 7 acres for sale across the street from one owner.
Well, 500 feet, I mean, that's what expands it, that's what stretches it. Like, but that would put you out 2 weeks versus 2 months, I mean.
Yeah, just do
Right.
that.
We've already been out 3 months. This is the thing.
Yeah, well, I'm just,
Of the 400 feet. To the
Well, we didn't anticipate having to move.
Yeah.
First,
For the variance and
I
then,
thought the ones that I thought
I'm gonna
were
forget
enough.
no distance.
for now.
We could tell them
If I
our
make a, I'll make a
feelings.
copy of that for you,
but not
just
vote
because
on
I
it
want one for the
pending
file
final
too. So
notification,
this
right?
is your copy, the
So
bottom
we're gonna
one.
continue we're gonna go through, just do our normal stuff, so then if we take care of that now, then 2 weeks it would be, as long as you have your, as long as we get those back, then it would just be.
Come back over 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if we go through this now, and then we have validation that those are done, I don't even think you need to come back, because we already have everything, so, I mean, that'd be up to commission, I don't think they really would need to come back. So if we have any,
Well, I gotta come back with the notifications.
well, I mean, Carrie will get those,
I get them over to Carrie.
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
one thing you gotta watch, I mean, conceivably, but it never happened,
Yeah.
is somebody, one of those people could wanna appear or wanna hear the
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah. Yeah, so you just have to, and we'll take care of it on the agenda too, we'll move it up.
All I gotta do is you and Carrie will just make sure she gets a receipt,
Yeah,
notification, we're good to go, now what's the call? Everything seems to be okay with it?
Well, I was gonna just say, if you wanna just, yeah, we just wanted to go through if anybody had any questions or, want any quick clarifications on it.
At least we'll get all this stuff done then.
So Dave, basically what you're just doing, you put a living room, it looks like a sitting room, a bedroom, a little bed, is it a bathroom?
Yeah.
A little kitchen? Yeah. So,
I mean, they're not cooking, they're basically working.
They received, so it's new, right?
I got you, yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Any thought?
I mean, as long as it meets all the zoning regulations for setbacks and everything, I have no objections.
And you have an egress over, there's a door here, this is going outside?
It's gonna be a front door, yeah, and a back deck.
This is the front?
This is the existing house.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go in through my dining room.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then you're gonna have a new space. This is my front door here,
Yep.
existing. There'll be a front door for them, there'll be a back.
Gotcha. Pretty straightforward. Anybody have anything?
Sorry, I just stepped out to make a copy real quick, but I heard you briefly discuss this. There are no issues regarding coverage or anything like that. They did receive the one variance for the.
And there's one heating system?
Well, we're gonna add all, it's all gonna, they're gonna have their own zone, their own bathroom.
But there's only one basic heating system, even though they have a zone for them.
We're gonna run another zone off my furnace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the plumber and heating people come, right? She's asking about it was only one heating.
Yeah, they said the furnace is plenty.
Yeah.
And East Shore Health has been out to the property. You've worked with them, correct?
Yeah.
Also? Yep.
East Shore, yeah. Yeah, they called you, right?
Yeah, they're good.
Anybody else? Anything else?
No, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we'll take care of it next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that will be continued to February 18th?
Yep, this will be continued, this public hearing will be continued to Thursday, February 8th. Old business 6A, it's still out. New business, revised site plan for 285 Foxen Road, owner applicant Al Pasilio.
You ran?
Did he go?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't know if he's in the hallway and he's coming back in. I don't know.
I mean,
Right,
I'm
he-
gonna check, because it's
Yeah,
his
he was just sitting,
application.
he was just
Right.
sitting there. Unless he left,
What's the revised site plan?
well, he's got a revised site plan.
To do what?
I'm not sure. Oh, it's on the, it was added.
Here, we have a revised agenda. Oh,
No.
Was he here?
No,
Okay.
if,
You wanna, should we review it? And
I
just
think we
with
can
a-
discuss it, I can
Yeah.
give you an update,
Yeah,
and then,
please.
So maybe I'll start, if that's okay, then you can jump in.
okay.
So, I'll just lay out the approved plan so you remember where we left off. And I don't know if people wanna, I mean, it's not a public hearing, but I
No.
don't,
No.
okay. So this was the approved plan going back to, September, and we talked about a one-way traffic, design. There was the discussion about a potential for a temporary easement, where Mr. Facilio had to go before the town council. Also needed approval from the town engineer and the director of public works, and also, the town attorney, obviously. So, as a result of conversations with Kurt and Fran, this is the revised plan, so the original
Another one, right?
approval.
Never done another one of those?
Yeah.
And now I'm just looking at those,
Oh.
You had it.
you had, I thought you had.
Right.
Yeah, it's getting hot around over my shoulder.
That's
So
the
the-
heavy breathing.
The original approval only had parking within the property, obviously. You couldn't approve anything outside of the property line. So this shows parking within the town's right-of-way. So I'll let Kurt jump in with the changes, pointing out.
Okay, the original plan, as Carrie mentioned, had one direction coming in from Foxton Road, heading towards the rear of the property, and there was angled parking, and all the parking had to be on their property, the parking in the access aisles. Subsequently, the applicant went to town council requesting permission through an easement or a license agreement to allow parking within the town right of way. Town council gave a conceptual approval, I think, at this point, said they would, they consider it, and they try to work with the applicant in terms of that, basically with a caveat that there had to be an adequate snow shelf.
Right.
Meaning the concerns of the director of public works for when he's snow plowing, he has a place to put snow. This one, I ran it by Fran Marola, in terms of what they're proposing, and he's okay with it. Basically, the biggest thing this does is it gives two direction from the 24-foot aisle from the front to the rear, so you don't have one-way traffic in and out.
Right.
And then it,
I think we also gained.
you gained a little bit in the front.
Yeah, two
I mean,
spots.
along Merrick Drive, I mean, parking is an issue, there's absolutely no doubt about it, this is a very tight site. What it does, the front pretty much stays the same, they have their handicap spots. And again, they have parking along Merrick Drive, perpendicular to Merrick Drive, 11 spots over there. There's a snow shelf. One of the things, just to throw out for your consideration, when they did this, and this is certainly what sort of creates a little angst amongst everybody, they didn't do it according, they paved this lot, and they did it their way, not according to any plan. And so we're trying to sort of take a few steps back and get something approved, something that works, get them to correct it. The whole layout. That would require, there's new curbing along Foxton Road, there would have to be new curbing on the, sort of facing that lot on Merrick Drive, for a significant length of it where the new, the reconfigured parking is.
So this dotted line would be all the,
Then they have to be all new curbing right through here. They'd actually bump out, because they actually put a light on the town property. They have to relocate a light over here.
right.
Where it says motorcycles only. They have to put new curbing here, new curbing, and then there's new curbing at the entrance, the entrance from Merrick Drive, that wasn't put in properly.
Okay.
The thing I'm gonna throw out is along Merrick Drive, they put a wide pavement strip, which is not what was approved. Originally it was, curbing
Right.
and landscaping.
So right now, it's just pavement.
It's pavement, and the question is, does the commission want them to remove that pavement, put landscaping in, or is the commission okay with just continuing, just a wide paved buffer strip there? That's more aesthetic, so I'm gonna certainly throw that back to the commission in terms of what they want there. This provides, and I'm just gonna point out a couple other things. To the left, it says compact cars only, they're basically 15-foot spots. The regulation allows for compact spots, if the commission approves it. That's what you can fit in there, and a couple at the end seems to make, it seems feasible.
As far as, like, we're talking about, like, because they paved all the way down, now, it's instead of leaving the space and then put some, they can put some plantings in there, but what is Fran, does Franny have a preference?
Fran doesn't have you want to define this with this curb in, and that has to be filled in with either pavement or landscaping. I don't think Fran has a concern one way or the other.
I didn't know if they had a benefit if we left it paved for snow plowing purposes.
If it was paved and it paved right up to that curb, again, it's more of an aesthetic thing.
And what is it, what is this right now?
That's our town property.
Yeah, but is it paved? or
This
not
is paved right here. This strip right here is.
And what's here?
This is, actually, this is paved with an elevated curb. This is paved like a parking area.
See, that's elevated.
What it never should have been.
They just repaved what was already paved already.
He paved over what he should have paved over.
Right, so that little strip here is that strip there.
Right.
And this flat spot in between is what they're calling remove pavement, install landscaping.
Right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, it's only down here, right?
The caveat I'm gonna throw out there is, this has to go, the town attorney has to finalize an easement or agreement, that's gotta go back to the town council for review and approval. I mean, that's ultimately but the process is, they've gotta have a plan that the Planning and Zoning Commission would approve, subject to securing that license agreement.
Right,
or
so
easement.
so what happens is they have to get the agreement first.
Well, actually, they need your approval to move to town council and request final action.
Approval on,
The approval of a revised site plan.
I thought we had to just provide a recommendation that we were going with that they're.
Well, that's going back and forth in terms of that, but they're final, they're at the point now, they have to come back, because they have the only approval they have is for the angle parking going,
Right. Yeah.
They've gotta come back with a revised
Site plan
approval.
to us.
Yes, which is this.
Which is where we are right now.
But we can't really prove this because there's they don't have the easement in place.
Well, I certainly think you can approve it, subject to securing of the easement
Gotcha.
by the town council, because it's gotta go back to the town council. They've got final say on the whole thing.
Right, I gotcha.
And just to clarify, so the business currently has a temporary certificate of occupancy. I could not issue a certificate of zoning compliance because the dumpster is not located where it was approved to be located.
Over here.
Correct.
This is actually sticking out in the town right of way. We told them they gotta move it. They do note they have to do that, but that's.
It should only take one call to move it. Shut them down.
It shouldn't take much, but it has to happen. It's.
I'm seeing a couple of things that, they came in with a site plan. The dumpster's not where it should be. They paved over that's supposed to be a planted area.
Well, I don't think.
And what happened with this curb?
On the original plan, we did not have plantings in there, so let's.
Well, it says-
An island. It was an
Landscape, I don't know,
island.
what- but we didn't put, we didn't say
You didn't
exactly what it was.
specify,
Yeah, we didn't specify on that, because we didn't know if they were gonna get the approval to move closer, and then we would decide on the revised site plan if we wanted to add
The
anything.
only other difference that I just want to point out as well is along the southern end, next to the residential property, they show a fence there, a stockade fence, the entire length. And it stops before the dumpster. So I would say it stops about 3 or 3.5 parking
Yep.
spaces in.
Just a fence here.
Okay, and it's supposed to continue all the way
Well, the approved site plan shows it continuing down to
the dumpster, past the dumpster,
past the dumpster, actually around the.
and around the corner. Okay.
These are
Right.
trees. This is appropriate.
How do we know that the town council is going to give them this approval?
Not a
That's
fence,
con-
do you? Only this thing.
I would think the only way you can do it is approve it conditional upon it. They have a
Right.
prior approval
On the existing.
on the existing one.
Right.
I mean, only reason I'm saying that is because there was some mention from the floor about them.
Well,
Having-
we can't go by that, that's,
Yeah,
I understand that, but we're not gonna, we can't use something that might happen or might not happen at some other
Well, I mean,
place.
Curb, were
I don't know
curbs
how you
removed
can
already?
ask us to
Pardon?
approve
Were
something
installed
that
curbs
they don't
removed?
approve.
The curb was removed.
Which curb?
There was curb for the original plan.
Here's the original plan with the curving,
Yep. this-
right here.
They
Yeah.
paved much wider here,
Mhm.
and then they put they put a curb in here to try to comply with this, but
Right.
it's been subsequently removed.
Because they removed it probably in preparation of getting an
Well, they-
approval. But I mean, what do you
They
think?
didn't go through step 1,
Yeah,
step
no,
2,
I
step
gotcha. I
3. They
agree.
went to step 1,
Right.
then step 4, so
Right.
2 and 3 occurred, and then, you know.
The whole
that's-
building is restaurant is going, not the plan either, I don't think, you know.
It's been a frustrating process.
So let me ask you a
From a
question.
renovation to a whole new building,
If-
the
if-
full foundation from a slab is,
Oh, I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't think well, I don't want, the foundation was, I mean, that was, I don't know, I mean, that's what they came to, they were gonna build in the same spot, the foundation crumbled. I mean, Kurt says that was, determined that we gotta do this, I don't wanna get into that.
He has an approved plan, that's what's in front of you.
Right.
The other option
Which is not compliant.
is, correct. The dumpster, the current CEO is working with the property owner and to move it. Apparently, last I spoke with him, he's going to move it.
Well, that's minor.
Right,
I mean,
that's why
yeah.
the CO was issued, it was a temporary CO, it's like, just move it. The option that's before you tonight is as a result of Kurt and Fran reviewing the revised layout and the applicant submitting it to us, wanting it to be on this agenda, is with, the assumption, or I guess maybe contingent upon is a better way of putting it, contingent upon the town council approving an easement. If he doesn't meet these additional requirements of putting in the curbing, doing the landscaping, moving the light posts, moving the dumpster, then it wouldn't be effective, and he would have to be issued a cease and desist.
My question is, with the revised parking, we got the approval of the fire department, the police department, traffic flow, all that good stuff.
The traffic flow is
An
much
improvement.
better. I mean, you have the two-way traffic, I mean, the one-way traffic was a way to fit it on the property, the angled parking, but
This is a
it
wider
creates
aisle.
confusion.
Right.
but one other thing though is, I think before when he wanted additional parking, it would give him he would open up that room that he blocked off, give him additional seating inside too.
We're still at the same, he's still at the same number of parking spaces. I think he has one more, I think he's at 25.
So, because his plan was to have a certain amount of seating and a certain amount of parking places and seating, right?
Well, it's a
The
square
parking
footage.
is based on the
Square
patron
footage.
area.
Yeah.
So, is he getting any additional parking doing with the new one
I
more?
think one space or two spaces.
So we're not allowed him to add any more tables.
Right.
No, The benefit of this design with the occupying the town's easement, if the town council allows it, is that it provides for a wider aisle.
For the
So it
traffic-
allows for
traffic flow.
two-way traffic.
Right, but
It's better circulation, it's.
my
it's
concern
one
is,
more spot. but
when he
that's-
when he first came in, he had proposed 27 parking places and having X amount of tables, and he had to block off a whole room to eliminate the floor space, right?
I don't recall that.
No, he had proposed less parking spaces.
Right.
And he had to go get a variance from ZBA in order to get
Right.
approval for the fewer parking spaces.
But then, since he didn't have enough parking, he couldn't have as much floor space, so he had to block off a whole room, he had to make a room. Not-
He got approval for 24 parking
if he
spaces,
did-
which is based on his patron area.
But it did reduce from his original plan, he did have to reduce his service area.
If he didn't get the variance, yeah,
Right.
maybe, but I mean, he got the variance, so I mean, it's, I mean.
I think that he did that anyhow.
Right.
I think on
Because
the
he wanted
new
more
site
parking.
plan,
He had, until he got the variance, he could only have somebody, so he went and got a variance, and then, when he got the variance, then he could have, the square footage was fine.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. That's, as I recall.
He's
Yeah.
fine with the 24 parking spaces because he got the variance,
Yep.
correct?
The comment about parking spaces, that's absolutely correct. It's, within by there, it's a tight spot, and every parking space on site, I would think would be a benefit, because it tries to keep them on site, and better circulation, so people aren't, because I've heard the same thing, people parking on Merrick, people parking in the school, you want them to park in at the restaurant.
Well, when it was Abate's, they parked on Merritt too, so.
Yeah, parked all over.
But certainly, and again, it's only a third of an acre site, it's a tight site.
So where are the no parking signs going?
I know, I believe the police department looked at Merritt Drive, along Merritt Drive would be potential spots.
Make it this wonder.
I haven't heard any, or seen any found report in terms of what their recommendation is, so I couldn't say if it would be part of Merritt Drive, one side of Merritt Drive, both sides of Merritt Drive. I think what I've heard too is that the school wants to basically say parking for school functions and school business only, and trying to confine that.
Can that be enforced?
Well, I mean, that's
It
an
can be
enforcement
enforced.
issue, and, yeah, someone has to,
Well, and
someone
I
has to be able to enforce it.
I spoke with Karen, Lieutenant Gary Ripa, and he said that he did complete a report, however, he has to show it to the police commission, and so it's not until Tuesday that he could share it with us, specifically for Merrick. I don't know that the parking for this property has still been approved at 24 spaces,
So let me ask you a question.
but I will get a copy of that.
Why do we have to take any action on this? Because my thing is, let's make sure he first completes what needs to be on the original plans.
Okay.
Right now, it's just the dumpster.
Well, the fencing,
Well, it's the
Dumpster.
curb,
curb.
just from, trying to, he didn't, he did some line striping, again, he took out the curb.
Right.
I mean, I would think, try to straighten it out, make an improvement, and push him to get it done, to get, rather, I mean, otherwise this is gonna hang for a long time.
Okay, so you recommend go to the
I mean,
revised site
I'd like
plan.
to see him
Yeah,
here
yeah.
before you take action.
Right, well,
I mean,
that's what I'm trying to.
That's why,
yeah.
you don't have to take action tonight, I just wanna present where things are.
Right.
But this is a better design, a better
This-
Oh, well,
circulation.
no, I understand, I'm just saying, I don't wanna I didn't wanna force this through unless if there was a reason to. I wanna see him start completing, like, the things that need to be completed, like the fence, move that back. I mean, just, before we even go any further, again, if he doesn't do it, it doesn't matter what site plan we're using, if he doesn't do it, we can get a we can get the cease
We
and
want
desist.
compliance.
Yeah.
How long is a temporary permit good for?
I believe it's February 21st or 22nd.
Okay.
But I think he ought to be here at a meeting where you're
I
gonna
agree.
take any action, to hear it and understand it. We've been saying things, and it just,
Okay.
It's after.
So we don't have to, we don't have to approve this for the town council to do whatever they need to do on their end.
you will need to approve it.
Town
Before
council.
town council,
yeah.
I mean, because you have
Oh,
to
I
have something
got
that
you.
he's working towards.
I got you.
Because then he has
We
to
can't
draw
approve till
up
they
an
approve it.
easement map to define what he
I don't think we
wants to
can,
do.
we can't approve it till the town council approves and gives
Well, no,
them.
I would think you could do it contingent upon
The
the
approval of the town
granting
council.
of these at town council. It's gotta go back to them, town attorney's gotta review the documents and
But
everything.
if the town council does not approve it.
Then he's under the old plan.
Then he's under no plan, because it is,
Then he
to
doesn't- he
meet the
can't apply.
condition, yeah, all right. So what we'll do is,
No.
so we'll just table this to the
I
next
would-
meeting, and, I mean, we'll just, because I read, like you said, the applicant should be here
I mean,
for some of the discussions.
because I don't wanna represent things for him. I'm telling you what I see on this side.
Right,
Yeah.
Go home.
so we should just wait on this.
Yeah,
I don't wanna
put
do
it
it,
up,
you don't wanna be there.
I think he ought to be there to represent it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I got one
Yep,
question.
sure.
Right now, when you first came, you wanted us to approve that this was going to be the line that should be, right? This is where the
Well, this will be-
curb is.
A revised lane would put the curb, would require them to put curbing all along over here, new curbing, this dash line right here, which is in front, sort of, it pretty much will come right along there.
So there is no curb. They
there-
took this curbing out. That's
This
what I-
this high area right here,
Right.
this is
That's
this dark, this is this
Right.
little island he
This was
created,
added.
which is not part of any approval.
So, I mean, one of the questions would be, is do we want the island to stay there or not, but I mean,
Well, and again, the thing I threw out is whether this is paved, a fully paved wide island, you know, it creates a buffer. Or do you want it landscaped? That's more aesthetics and,
I don't know that.
the important thing would be curbing be put here to define the parking, to limit him, so we can't get too close to the Merritt Drive.
well, you can't get that close because of that buffer though, right?
Well, but that, trying to give a little more. And
Right,
again,
so we would have,
primarily,
how far in front of the buffer does the curb should it be,
well,
roughly?
over here, it's about 8-9 feet,
Okay, I got you.
and right now, it's only about 4.5, 5 feet,
Because that's right here, 4.5, 5 feet is right where this buffer ends.
pretty much.
Right. So the curb that he took out was somewhere right in front
No,
of
the-
spaces
well,
at one time, right?
The curb is along the right-of-way line.
Right, okay, gotcha.
It was right here.
Yeah, you can kind of see it,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, the end of the striped.
Well, I mean, that's,
Yeah, I just want to.
that gives you the wider space
This
here.
is not a public hearing.
Right.
So we can't accept comments from the floor.
Yep.
Cliff? Cliff? This is not a public hearing. We can't accept comments from the floor unless it is in fact a public hearing. And it's not scheduled as a public hearing.
All right, well, like the town council, you don't know what went on at town council the other night. I thought maybe a little input from the mayor would help you.
That doesn't, yeah, I mean,
just so.
We're independent from a town
anyone
council.
there, basically, what I said was, the process, they've gotta come back with a revised plan. They gotta get an approval from the planning and zoning, and then put together the proposed easement. Town council has to act on it.
But I don't think that's what happened the other night. The town council said.
Well,
you're-
but that's following up on the old action and discussion. Town council and town
we're
attorney.
independent of the town council, so we're basically on our, based on our regulations, what we've already passed, what is being presented to us. If there's anything that comes up to the town council that we need to be informed with is one thing, but not as far as the site plan. A site plan is completely independent of, unless ZBA weighs in on something that is not within the
You're
regulations.
not aware that the town council wants to do a cease and desist.
That has nothing to do with us.
Oh.
We approve, if there's a cease and desist, the town council, there's a process for that, they'll alert, if it goes through, Carrie would alert us to that, but we're not involved with that part of the process.
Well, our cease and desist would be based on zoning issues.
Right, yeah, but now with some from the town council, I'm not sure what that is, but that
Right,
doesn't-
I don't
yeah,
know.
so that doesn't, it's not.
So was there a zoning issue?
Yeah.
We have,
Well,
yeah.
the dumpster is an issue,
Okay.
and the zoning enforcement officer was out there last week talking with him, and as I said, he's planning on moving it. And the temporary, he's operating under the temporary CO, which expires February 21st or 22nd. I can find out from the building official the exact date.
Our meeting is the
So
18th.
it's
and you give us
underway.
an update, right?
Right. Yeah, so this would be easy.
But I think it's important you hear from the applicant.
you got the light pole, and you got the curb.
Yeah,
we-
the light pole has to be moved,
Okay, let's
the
just.
dumpster has to be
Yeah,
moved, and the curbing has to
Kurt-
be installed.
Kurt just went through, we have it on the site plan, what has to be done.
But he's
So-
still, he's,
So-
the light pole.
Yeah, it's, Kurt did,
Oh,
it's
It is
it's on the
there,
plans.
Mike, to be moved.
Yeah, so thank you for,
This is not a public hearing.
I know,
We're going
so,
off on a
I know, I
tangent
mean,
here.
I think some of the, understand how these, point of borders work, so, I guess they don't.
Move on.
So we're gonna table, we'll continue this to the next meeting
okay.
and have the applicant come. All right, so we are at town planner report.
Okay, so, I did receive an application for a diesel gas station, which is at, 2000 Foxton Road, which is Midway Services. However, in looking at their plan, they will need a variance, so I'm not going to recommend that we accept it at this time, because
Then
the clock starts, so we're gonna hold off on that. And we have been in contact with the property owner and let them know that they also need a variance.
Whereabouts is, Fox and Road?
I'm sorry?
Whereabouts is it?
And Corky's,
Oh, Corky.
yeah.
Gas station,
Across
Right.
from Ciro Road.
yeah.
What do they want?
A diesel gas station, so they
Okay.
had been a gas station years ago, they're looking to have, a diesel pumps in
They
there.
came in out of the propane
Also
thing
a
last
new
time,
car
right?
dealer.
Same place?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, oh, you're talking about Midway.
Right.
Yes.
Midway, okay.
No, on Foxton Road, on Route 80.
Midway, okay.
Yep.
So
Okay.
they cleaned up the site a little bit over there, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you know it's car cutting?
And then ZBA wants us to take a look at the, as you mentioned, and you have it there.
Yes, so, we can just start the conversation, that's the point of tonight's meeting and bringing it up now. As you've noticed, I mean, I've only been here for a year and a half, a little bit more, but there are numerous, applications for accessory dwelling units that require variances as well. So anything over, it's a quarter of the square footage of the primary dwelling unit, or 600 square feet, whichever is less. So it's a maximum of 600 square feet that any accessory dwelling unit is allowed to be. If they're over that, then they need a variance. So the ZBA is seeing a lot of these variances. I did a little chart. So just in 2015, ZBA saw 4 variances. 2014, 1, 2013, 0, 2012, 1. So they've raised this, they've noticed it, even though the numbers aren't too great. They have been over the past year, or last year they were great.
Can we see, last year, what the average?
Sure.
You know, if you get that.
I have it,
And then.
right here.
It's right here.
Oh,
So the average square footage from 2015 was 876 square feet.
okay.
The only one in 2014 was 1,000, and in 2012 there's only one, and that was 900. But the ZBA had recommended 750 square feet. They came up with that number.
750?
750.
Because they, I mean, I obviously, last year was an average, but if it's 750 is the average, all them would be in front of the variance anyway. So if the idea is not to go to ZBA, then we probably should look at a number that.
The only reason that this one, I'm sure, got in under the 600 feet was because they're in wheelchairs. And apparently they needed more room for a wheelchair to
Right.
But all these- navigate it.
but all
With
those-
this,
But
the one
these
that
are all-
tonight,
But, yeah,
this one it exceeded the 600 square feet.
that's what I'm saying, but
Oh,
they
I
got
see.
the variance
I see.
Right.
based on the fact
Yeah.
that they were wheelchair people.
But we don't know
But-
about these.
This one shocks me.
Yeah,
I mean, you start, I don't see where it makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I was
If
thinking.
you stick to 600 feet, you're not allowing, you know, at least people have to really think twice about going over it. Because some of these that they allowed is
Right.
really large.
Well, one thing, I don't know if this would be, I mean, I don't know if we could, if we did consider increasing it. Also, one of the questions that we've always said is, you know, how do we know that, you know?
That's
it-
really
you know,
what I was
and
getting
I
at,
don't, I mean, I don't wanna, but what happens after the fact, or what if something changes, or whatever it might be? But if
What do you
we-
mean, the
Who's moving in? You
The
know what I mean?
ownership?
Yeah,
Well, there is
so-
an affidavit that's required, that's in our regulations, so one unit has to be occupied by the property owner at all times. They have to sign that. If the property changes ownership, they have to reapply for the special use permit.
Right.
I don't know if that's ever happened, or how that's really enforced.
But
No,
one of the
that's
things-
that's
one of the
the
things
whole
about-
thing is that you make these big enough and they can be used for secondary housing other than family.
After the family doesn't use it anymore.
After the family doesn't use it. Now, here's a good case. They're both apparently not well. How long, God willing, they live for years. But as soon as they do DC, that is a good size area that they can do anything with.
But when the regulation was put in, it was, I mean, it was intended, so only one person had to be, you know, had to be owner occupied.
Right.
Right.
And you didn't have, to. It's not like an in-law, it can be for supplemental income. I mean, the way it was set up, it was under the affordable housing statutes that were coming out and requirements, so that it will, the theory was, it would allow someone to live in their house and rent out part of it and still have an income, all along. The truth
That's in
is,
our
most
regula-
of them come in, and most of them are in-law related.
Right.
But again, it was part of that was the town's attempt at trying to address affordable housing that the state was sort of pretty much
Well-
forcing down everybody. I mean, and that's how it, one of them has, you know, one unit has to be owner occupied, so you can't just have a landlord just leasing out 2 rooms like a duplex or something like that. But that was the intent behind it when it went through.
When was that?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
That had to
I
be
see.
that was like
a lot of years ago.
1990 or
right,
thereabouts,
right.
yeah.
So
That was always on.
the
Yeah.
accessory dwelling unit, the change, at least for the addition of the definition, was added October of 1990.
But yeah, the original was 1990 when the state came in.
For the 2015, can you do you have a listing of what each one was?
Yes.
If not, if you.
Yes.
Oh, what do you have?
Oh, well, I don't, sorry, I don't
Oh.
have it with me, but I can get it.
Yeah, next meeting, yeah, just because I want to.
Okay.
If the recommendation's 750, but all the other, I mean, the average is 876. So unless if there's a few of them under, you know, like 60.
I mean, I guess I'm wondering, I'm posing this to you. Are you interested in going down this road? And because I'd like to go back to the ZBA to say, they're looking into it, they don't want to do it.
I think we should consider it. We should consider it, you know, we'll consider thinking about it, I mean, you know.
Can we poll some of our neighboring towns and see what they have?
Sure, absolutely.
I'd rather these come here than go to the CBA, you know, all the time.
Well, they would still be required to come here for a special use permit.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, but just come here and just avoid the ZBA. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense
And
to go to
the
both.
more case law that comes out about variances,
Right.
no one's showing a hardship, and you need to show a hardship. And, you know, but they're being granted variances, and not just in this town, throughout the state. So the more that we can have our regulations reflect what the residents need and want and is okay and meets requirements for handicap accessibility,
Okay,
so
so-
that maybe 600 feet.
So the original regulation allowed for supplemental income, but you had to show hardship in order to do that?
It doesn't say that.
I mean, what's confusing me is all this time, every time this comes up, there's always been this big discussion about, well, what happens if the parents die and they rent it out? Well, if they're living there and they need a supplemental income, it's
There's
not a big
nothing
deal.
stopping them.
Well, it's an accessory dwelling, not an in-law.
Yeah.
Right.
We've, everybody that's come to us has come for the
Right.
in-law part, not for the accessory, I mean, it's falls under accessory dwelling, and they've come for us the
Yeah,
in-law apartment.
I know,
you and we
but-
always say, well, what's gonna happen
Well, that's what I'm
afterwards? Right,
saying,
and
but
that's-
why we even bring that argument up if it can be?
Right.
So, you know, and I'm only saying is
No,
that.
you're right, that does come up.
And I think that the accessory dwelling has to have an entrance from the main dwelling. It's not separate, totally isolated, right?
Yeah, well, but I think that's code too, you have to have.
They do
two-
have to
you have to have
that
two,
entrance.
I think you have to have two forms of,
Right.
Well, it gets, our definition there's been some situations where it's kind of questionable. Is it an accessory, what I've been using is 2 kitchens, and if there is a way to separate the two, it has to be part of a home or attached to it. But if there's a door that you could close and lock, and then a separate entrance,
Right.
then it's an accessory dwelling.
Correct.
But
Again,
Carrie brings up a
that's the
good point.
difference.
There's all that interpretation, and I've seen it through different planners and different CEO and building officials, when is it an accessory, structure, and when is it just shared living space? And then that, we talk about just tightening that up, because 2 kitchens doesn't make it the old Italian kitchen downstairs and upstairs, and it may turn out that somebody sort of occupied that way, but it's all one living area, and they're not walled off, so it doesn't really
Tax different?
constitute an accessory unit. But part of the one of the items is the definition.
There's only one address,
So
right?
there's not less interpretation
that's a
and
requirement.
more clarity.
And is there any tax difference between accessory or shared? No? It's taxed the same,
I
right?
don't know. We
See-
can, I mean,
The assessor may pick something up as an in-law apartment, but it may not have gone through here, and it may not even really truly meet the definition of this. It may just be shared space, but they look at it a little different in terms of how they value everything and classify it. But we have to deal with it from the zoning perspective.
Yeah, there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll take a look at it.
okay.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it. There might be some other stuff we might want to, if we increase it, just maybe we want more than just an affidavit. If it's for an in-law, maybe it's, we want either like a change of address, or like they're just, if they've already lived in the house, maybe some kind of documentation, but we'll take a look at it, including size. Anything else, Carrie?
Oh, that's just an FYI.
So this is, just kind of FYI, this is, on the North Branford Guilford line. It's being, what would you say, proposed? I guess it's just proposed.
Considered by the DOT.
By-
They're looking into,
A rotary?
right by Bill Miller's on Route 1.
Oh, okay.
Versus a light. I mean, there's been a request from all towns for a light, and they may actually look at.
It's almost like a rotary now, because when you come down Route 1, you go
Well,
up
they
the
changed
side.
Yeah, you go one side.
No
to
one
the
ever
other.
uses
I
that.
But
They do.
Isn't that what it's there for?
Yes.
but I-
I use it all the time.
Thank you.
If I'm taking a
Right,
right,
it does back up, and actually,
Natural road.
Yeah, I just go.
yeah,
if I'm going right, I take the right.
if you're going right, it's easy,
Yeah, the
but
little
yeah.
side street,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But DOT is saying that with the rotary, there's a lot less a lot less accidents. And it's just a better, if they do the rotary right. I mean, if you go to like North Mass, and it's a wide rotary. Killingworth rotary is a little tight.
Yeah.
And I told them, it's all in the design and the detail of how they lay it out. But the concept is good.
Because you hate for a car to get in the rotary and can't get out. Is there anything else, Carrie?
The Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies is having their annual meeting March 17th, so I'll copy this and email it to everyone.
But
Okay?
All right.
That's
Anything else?
that's all.
Charlie?
Move we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none?